Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Friday morning. We have so much to get to this morning. Jay Drew is going to join us from the Deseret News. He talked with BYU's newest high-profile recruit, the transfer from Baylor, and we will hear from the Cougars' new point guard, Robert Wright, coming up. That's at 9 o'clock. Also, joining us in studio today, Patrick Manning from Black Desert Resort. The LPGA Tour is coming to town in early May. We'll talk with him. Right now, though, we're going to start with Will Hardy, the Jazz head coach. Tonight, we find out who the last two playoff teams are. Obviously, the Jazz are waiting for May 12th when they will find out where they are picking in the NBA draft. In the meantime, Will Hardy on what some of his players need to work on this season and his thoughts on the just completed campaign.
Losing can be tough on coaches. Is there any world in which another NBA team comes to you with a more winning program and says, hey, we want you to be our head coach? Do you listen to that, or are you a Utah Jazz man for forever?
I'm all in, man. I'm not going anywhere. This is one that's a crazy scenario that you just brought up. Like, I don't see a world where that would happen, but it doesn't matter. Like, I'm committed here. I'm under contract here. I told Ryan and Danny and Justin that, I want to be here for as long as I can. The goal for me is to put a banner at Delta Center, and I try to operate every day, not just with my job or coaching our team, but how I try to be present in the community. Like, I'm putting my roots here in Utah. That's not even a question for me. In some ways, my conviction has never been stronger in terms of wanting to execute our long-term vision and ultimately win a championship here.
How do you feel that holding players accountable has gone this season? And I mean that from kind of how you do it on a day-to-day basis, like what that looks like, and then also how you feel like has it been positive or negative, or have there been struggles along the way?
I mean, in my opinion, I think it's gone great. I think there's an awareness that's needed when you're a coach in terms of when. A mentor of mine told me a long time ago that coaching is not about being right, it's about being right at the right time. And you have to evaluate each person, what situation they're in terms of when it's time to lay the hammer down and when it's time to put your arm around them and encourage them. And to me, that's the fun part of coaching, is that it's not 2 + 2 is 4. These are human beings. It's a moving target every day. And I think for the most part, it went great this year. I think our players know and feel that ultimately I'm in their corner. It is my responsibility to hold them accountable, though. And you have to hold the line. If you demand something and it's not met, you have to continue to hold that line. And I'm very proud of our players in terms of how they conducted themselves this season. Over the course of 82 games with 18 guys, of course, there are moments where there's a back and forth or there's a disagreement, but there was never a moment this season where I felt like, oh, we've lost this person or they're going their own way.
Doc Rivers said this season that he doesn't think that coaches or losses should go on coaches' records during these rebuilding seasons that you guys had. Kind of in the same sense, how do you go about evaluating a year like this when wins and losses doesn't really make sense to do such a thing?
I mean, I'm sure Doc was fine with the wins and the championship in Boston. I don't think it's fair for us to say, oh, this shouldn't be on me. This is the job. Like, this is the responsibility. This is what you sign up for. The good, the bad, and the in-between. I said to you guys last night, complaining is not a strategy. And sure, the losses go on my record, but the opinions that matter to me are the people that are in our building, our organization. They know what we do every day. And so I think that's just the shadow side of coaching, is that, when you lose, it follows you. But when you win, that follows you also. So I think, while I understand Doc's sentiment, I just think this is part of the job.
Coach, building culture is something that's so huge, whether it's just with your young players, some of the older ones, your coaching staff, everyone around you. How much of a focus is that for you this off season, and how do you instill that in guys even when you're not around them all the time?
Yeah, it's the most important thing. For our young players to grow and develop, the environment is the most important thing to me. Like, we use the word culture. I think the culture is ultimately made up of the people that are in the building. I don't think culture is a slideshow. I don't think culture is bullet points on a wall. I think culture is the people that are in the building. And ultimately, the measure of your culture is how everybody acts when you're not in the room. The environment around our young players is the most important thing to me. We have to cultivate a group of people, that's players, staff, that give everybody their best chance to grow into the best versions of themselves. I think through 3 seasons, we've been pretty particular about who we want here, and we're going to continue to try to refine that process. That's an everyday thing, and I just want to make sure that while we're going through this developmental phase, that we're giving all of our young players the best opportunity to grow based on what we surround them with.
Does the idea of having 4 more rookies come in spike your blood pressure?
No. That doesn't bother me at all. I think I have plenty of experience now coaching really young players. There's good parts and there's tough parts, just like there's good parts and tough parts to coaching veterans. So, we will coach whoever is on the roster and try to help them all maximize their abilities and grow, and also try to help the 18 people that are in our locker room function as a group at their highest level. But, if that's the case, I'm sure there'll be plenty of snarky comments made on Twitter, but that's just the way it goes.
I'm going to ask you for the 6 rookies and sophomores. You're going through end of season meetings with them. What are the 1 or 2 priorities you want them to work on this summer?
Yeah. So Cody, it's about his body and his physical strength. We also have to do some things to refine his shooting. Isaiah, conditioning has to become a superpower, and then we have to continue to refine his shooting, especially the kind of sit behind 3 off the bounce when people try to go way under in pick and roll. Flip has got to become more solid on the defensive end. He has to be earlier on the defensive end. I think that Flip is used to making plays over the top over the course of his life, and I think at this level we just need him to be a little bit earlier defensively. And then as it relates to his shooting, he has seen some success, and now we have to tighten those things and make it his habit, because as expected, there was some success, then some of the things started to drift a little bit, which with any new skill is not a shock to me. Like, there was no alarm bell that went off. But now with the off season, he can really try to make those things a habit. Keontae has got to improve his defense. His defense can be improved in a variety of ways. Some of it is the mental aspect, but there also is an element of his conditioning and his physical strength. On the offensive side, his shooting discipline needs to improve. You asked the question about efficiency, and I think that those things need to be addressed, but more than that, I think just the technical discipline when he does shoot, not falling out of his shot, some of those things can be worked on. Taylor, we've got to get healthy. That's the only focus. And Bryce has to make his body his number one priority. I think Bryce has shown everybody that he has a definable, tangible NBA skill. When he shoots, it goes in. But his body is going to help him navigate all the other areas. Everything from changing ends of the floor to becoming more solid defensively. If he can do those things, it allows his skill to really shine.
Is there a type of player that you think this team needs, or is it kind of too early to be thinking of like where players would fit in?
Yeah, right now, I'm more concerned with the type of people. I think our roster at this point, you could make arguments for a variety of different positions, but I think we also have a bunch of talent in the building. Because everybody's so young, there aren't that many guys that stand out head and shoulders above the pack where you would say like, oh, that position's not a need. I think we obviously, whenever we're acquiring players, the number one thing is we want good players. But the type of people, to me, is what's most important. We need tough, competitive people. And I think our process of evaluating, Danny, Justin, their entire group, the information that I receive through those processes, I think is very good in trying to identify the types of people that we're bringing in, because especially when you're acquiring very young players, the one and dones used to be outliers 5 or 6 years ago. Now everybody in the draft's 19, and so you have a little bit less basketball data on them, and you're ultimately trying to bet on human behavior. And I think that our group's done an amazing job of recognizing that and trying to identify the types of human beings that we want to bet on. That's what's most important to me, because I think, back to Lauren's question earlier, like that's what adds up to the culture. That's what ultimately will impact the environment the most and give everybody their best chance. I think there's a lot of different player types in terms of basketball that can be really effective. And so for me, it's not about pinpointing, oh, we need X. It's about the human piece.
Along those lines, how involved are you in the draft evaluation process, and how much do you want to be, I guess?
I'm very involved, and I'm glad that I'm very involved. Obviously, there's so much work that's been done all year. This is a 1,000-mile road trip, and I'm coming in at mile 950, so I'm not going to try to drive. But I'm trying to really get an understanding of who has been identified as players that we, the Jazz, like and why. So if there's 300 college players that have been watched all year by our staff, I don't have the opportunity to watch all 300. They try to narrow it down for me some. And so for me, I'm in a learning mode right now as we enter draft season. I take the lead from Justin and Danny in the front office, because that's the part that they have been digging in on all year while I've been coaching our team. So I'm involved, but in no way do I come in acting like I'm the expert. I need to really take the next month and a half and learn about who's in the draft and how it all fits together.
There's Jazz head coach Will Hardy. When we come back, we're going to hear from the Utah Hockey Club as they head into the offseason. Stay with us. Good morning, DJ and PK, proudly presented by our title sponsor, Black Desert Resort, Utah's premier golf resort. Utah Hockey Club, season-ending interviews, the exit interviews. A lot of players meeting with the media. We can't play them all right now. We'll probably play a few next week. But this morning, a couple of guys, Dylan Guenther. I mean, this guy's 21, going into his 22-year-old campaign next year, putting up big numbers. The future looks really bright. What did he think of his year in Utah? Here's Dylan Guenther.
First full year in the league for you, kind of hard to believe for some fans, but what were your biggest takeaways from the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that throughout my 3 years, I've played a little more each year and gotten a little better each year. So just understanding how busy it is, how often you play, and how to, manage myself physically, mentally, taking care of, my body and all that.
Did anything about the full NHL season surprise you?
I don't think so. I mean, it is long, and, every game matters, I think. Like the position that we're in, fighting down the stretch, the games in October and November, they all matter. So I think that it was good to kind of go through that and understand it and have that feeling so that when we come into it next year, we're prepared.
You said with your contract kicking in, you might buy a new hot tub for the Costco next year. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, that one didn't last, so I don't know about a new one. But I think we're getting a new one at the new practice rink, so I'm sure it's pretty nice.
How good do you think you can be?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just want to continue to get better every year and don't want to set, any limitations. This is what I want to do. This is, I love playing hockey, and I think if I just continue to work and get better, then, I don't want to set any kind of limits.
Is there a different feeling for you guys going into this offseason, seeing how close you were to the playoffs versus, being out last year?
Yeah, I think just like I said earlier, like getting a taste of it and, getting a little closer this year. I think we had like 11 more points or something than last year. We've taken a step ever since I've got drafted here. We've gotten better. So I think that next step is to get into the playoffs, and it's not going to be easy. The division's strong, the league's so competitive. So yeah, I think just making sure that when we're playing in October and November, just knowing how important those games are.
A lot of players, both on your team and in the league, have said you've got one of the best shots, but how do you go about continuing to add more goals, to your season total moving forward?
I think just being more versatile, scoring inside more, getting to grittier areas. I think you don't want to be predictable for the other team, so trying to, work on, not just different shots, but scoring from different areas on the ice.
Is there a particular facet of your game that you want to focus on more than maybe anything else this offseason?
Yeah, I think just like so much of the game is played on the wall and around the board, so I think picking up pucks off the wall, dirty pucks that are kind of tough bounces and stuff around the boards, holding on to pucks down low and trying to possess it a little bit more than I have.
What was it like away from the rink, away from hockey, making Utah home? Were there any moments or experiences that kind of stood out that helped you settle here?
Yeah, I mean, it's flown by, honestly. Like, I remember coming into training camp and coming to Utah for the first time and just not really knowing what to expect. So the people, the fans, the ownership, the support has all been, unbelievable. And it's just a really fun place to play, and I'm excited to come back next year.
Any favorite spots you guys have found on off days or anything?
We went to Top Golf yesterday. Brought our own clubs to Top Golf. Went bowling. Don't go to lane 17 at Draper Bowling. The pins don't fall there, so I told the guy that. But no, I think just trying to do stuff like that and and going up into the mountains, Park City a couple of times is great.
Who's the best at Top Golf?
I mean, it's a little iffy because when you're putting, you have to chip it into like the one that's super close, so I wasn't very good at that. But if anyone to beat me at Top Golf, I'll say that.
Same question for bowling.
I'm the better bowler.
Do you feel like you look better with the bubble or just the shield?
I think the visor. It's nice that it healed up. Not too bad, so hopefully don't take a whole lot of more pucks.
How is the nose? Is it feeling better?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's just, it's broken, so I got a little bump here, but it's fine.
So how does the visor impact your peripheral vision and stuff when you're playing?
No, it felt pretty normal. I was worried about it at first, but no, it was like pretty stock.
You talked about wanting to avoid surgery. Do you think you're good for the summer?
Yeah, I think so. More of an aesthetic thing than anything, probably.
Are you going to go to the World Championships this year?
I'm still kind of thinking about it, up in the air. I have to discuss with the medical staff, but whenever you get the opportunity to represent your country, it's a huge honor. So, yeah.
A lot of guys have been saying, like around the league, that the World Championship is kind of a tryout for the Olympics next year. Do you see it that way? And if so, is the Olympics the goal?
I think it is. I mean, a lot of the guys who are going to play in the Olympics are playing in the playoffs right now. So I think that, for guys not playing in the playoffs, and this is like that a little bit, but, the goal is to just get better every year and come out hot next year.
What would you say are the big selling points for this franchise to maybe potential free agents down the road?
I just think the impact of the city and how much the people care. Like the building sold out every night. We're losing by 3 or 4 some games, and people are still there. I think that says a lot, and that's not normal. I think the ownership group is unbelievable. Everything's first class. Our new practice facility is crazy nice, and the players they want to be here and they want to play here and they want to win in Utah.
Maine said that the rebuild is over. You guys know what you need to do moving forward. I'm just curious, what's your assessment of where this team is at, what you guys can accomplish next season and the season after?
Yeah, I think just like I said before, just get a little bit better every year. You're not going to go from last to first. That just doesn't happen. I think it's a process. We all understand that, and everyone on the team has been patient, but is hungry to take that next step. And I think that we're aware of how hard it is to get into the playoffs and how big of an accomplishment that is in itself. It's such a competitive league, so just make sure that we're ready to go from the start, because every game's going to matter for us to get in.
There's Dylan Guenther at the podium. Here's Spicy Tuna, Liam O'Brien with PK.
Spicy Tuna, Liam O'Brien. There's the tuna man. Do we call him Mr. Spicy? I don't know. I don't know what we call him. I'm just going to call him Liam O'Brien. Liam, you're on KSL Sports Zone, where that is the home of the Utah Hockey Club. Good morning. How you feeling today?
Good morning. Yeah, I'm feeling good. I think it's, I think as players, we definitely want to be playing playoff hockey, but, I think our team took a step this year, and I think that's something we're proud of.
Yeah, that's what I've been noticing. We've had players come through here and then at the podium and joining us live. And I've kind of summarized it in that there is a sense of satisfaction. You talk about taking the step. So 3 things I've noticed. There's a sense of satisfaction that the team has progressed. No one can argue that. You just look at the raw stats and you can say, okay, you've been better. You're better now than you were last year and so forth. So that's the one thing. The second thing is there's a love affair going on between you guys and the community. Would you say that's accurate?
Oh, 100%. I would say even the progression was even just within the year. I think from start to finish, I think just the way that we played towards the end of the year, I think we took a step even within the year. So, and then obviously with the fans, I think, the community here has really embraced us, and, we're enjoying our time.
And then the third thing I've noticed, so 3 things. This is the third thing, is that the guys, and I didn't know what word to use, but I'm settling on angry. They're angry. You guys, you're on the team, are angry that there is no postseason.
Yeah, I think we all. I think I encourage fans to watch postseason hockey because it's electric. It's when you get to be a part of that. I haven't been able to do it at the NHL level yet, but it's different, and it's emotional, and it's just passionate hockey, and it's so it's disappointing we don't get to be a part of that,
particularly when it's overtime hockey.
Yeah, because I mean, you could go forever,
right? Or it could end in a minute.
Or it could end in a minute. Yeah,
I mean, it's you can't look away.
Yeah,
because you
and
don't
it's not
know
3-on-3 anymore too. So it's
right.
I think that's what's cool about it is that everybody's involved, and it's different.
Liam O'Brien joining us right here on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. We all remember when the team first got here, and your role and you hyping up the crowd and everything. And here we are now. The season's over. As you get older, time seems to go by fast. Did it the proverbial blink of an eye? Is that what you're thinking?
Oh, it blew by. This year blew by for sure. Yeah. But it was just such a wonderful experience. And to be a part of the first year for this franchise, history. It's I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for all the fans and the love.
I grew up in Phoenix, and my sister's hairdresser has just been in depression since you guys left. She knew. So my sister's hairdresser knew my job in the media, and so my sister would always be asking me, what are you hearing? What are you hearing? What are you hearing? And she said, because then she'd report back to the hairdresser. So there was some passionate fans down there. We know that last game at the ASU arena. I went to ASU and all that stuff. So, but we're glad that you're here. And one of the things in listening to the guys at the podium, so there's a question, and they said 10 players on the team had career highs statistically. That's got to be a sign of, man, that their arrow is really pointing up for you guys.
Yeah, we got our young guys. Really, honestly, they've done a great job, and their development and the process and everything. They've all taken steps, and I think it's fun to see your teammates grow. It's fun to see guys hit milestones, like even Keller hitting 90 points this year. Like, right. I know that's big for him. He's a humble guy. He probably wouldn't say it, but it's impressive too, right? So it's
sure.
It's always great to see your teammates, do special things.
As I look at this team and watch the progression throughout the year, Bill Armstrong reminded me of what he said leading into the season. He said, some nights, man, you're going to think, gosh, this team is really good. We're going to win the cup. And then there's other nights you're going to be thinking, what's going on with these guys? And to an extent, you saw that this season. I brought it up with some other players. Before you beat the Kraken here recently, after they were eliminated, you were 0-2 against them, but yet you had some phenomenal victories against some really good teams, Winnipeg being the most recent here. Is it just a matter, from your perspective, as you go into next year and you need to take that next step, is it just a matter of consistency, or what is it?
Yeah, 100%. I think it really comes back to consistency and, the maturity of our game. I think, it's a grind of a season. It's 82 games, and I think throughout that course, you need to find ways to, stay consistent and stay dialed in, and you need to learn some lessons, and I felt we learned from a lot of the stuff that happened at the start of the year, and I like the way that we handled the adversity as well.
How about the idea of, at the end of the season, or towards the last, basically, you could say the last couple of months, Liam, that you didn't make the playoff, but essentially these games had maybe some type of playoff ramifications. So it wasn't like last year where you're basically playing out the season and waiting to come up here and all that stuff. The games at the end of the season, even though they weren't technically playoff games, the playoff implications and ramifications add to the level of importance. How important was that in the progression of the team to be in those situations over many games that can help you next season?
Definitely. I think when you're playing those meaningful games, and we did for a long time, right? We were in that sort of, chasing that wild card spot for a while. Yeah. And those meaningful games add pressure.
Right.
And, I think playing under that pressure, it's great for our team, and I think we can learn a lot from that. And yeah.
A couple of the guys, when they came in, they talked about in their communities, we've had a few guys. One guy lived downtown, one guy lived in the suburbs, bought a house. And then I think it was Bustad was saying that, I think it was him saying that they got deluged with the community giving them stuff, cookies and treats and whatnot, and they had a welcoming party. He figured a handful of people, and there's like 70, 80 people. Your level of any of that experience?
Yeah. I mean, my community, I'm in Sandy, they were great to me. I mean, everybody was coming to the door and giving me cookies and gifts and everything, and everyone was just so welcoming. So no, I don't know if they didn't throw me a party, but
you live in Sandy?
I do, yeah.
Well, okay, I live in Sandy's.
Yeah. Next
year we are throwing a party for spicy tuna, Liam O'Brien. How about that?
Sure, let's do it. Let's do it.
What's your summer going to be like?
I think I got a lot that I want to improve upon, and things that I want to work on, and I'm gonna, go to work, but also, I've got a little girl, so spend some time with family and enjoy this time in her life.
I found a lot of hockey players play golf. Are you one of them?
I do play golf. I'm not a golf all the time guy, but I do play golf. I enjoy golf. When I can find the time, I try to get out.
If I were to ask you who's the best golfer on the team, who would you say? Keller
or Schmaltz? Yeah, they're both. They could go toe to toe. I mean, they're very. It just depends what day of the week it is. They could go back and forth all the time. They're really good golfers.
Yeah, I saw a thing with Keller had when he was living in Phoenix that looked like it was North Scottsdale, that he had a little pitching area in his backyard and all that stuff, and he must have had 50 or 100 balls were laying out there, which means he's practicing a lot.
Oh yeah. And anytime you go over there, you just go back there and you're chipping him onto his green. So yeah, he's got a good setup.
Well, thanks for joining us, and we appreciate your enthusiasm and integrating yourself in the community, and we really look forward to next season.
Thank you for having me.
All right. That's Liam O'Brien. Thank you, Liam.
There's Liam O'Brien, spicy tuna. We're going to take a break. When we come back, RSL head coach Pablo Mastroeni. Stay with us. DJ and PK, a reminder to join Hans and Scotty Monday from noon to 3 at RGS Exteriors, 4235 Farm Road in West Jordan. We're joined once again by RSL head coach Pablo Mastroeni. The team will be home against Toronto this weekend, Saturday night. Pablo, good morning.
Good morning, DJ PK.
Pablo, the phrase that is used at the club, the mantra, winning through development. I feel like sometimes the winning's 80% of the equation, the development's 20%. But right now I'm feeling like the development's 80% of the equation and the winning is only 20%. Do you ever feel that emphasis swing back and forth? And how do you see it play out? And when do you see it change?
That's a great question. I think, I think in order to develop people in the right way, you have to be winners. It's a belief system. And so I think for us, it's balance. And, our roster is a young roster. And so the way I look at it and what drives me every day is, development takes time. And the only way to go from a development player to an experienced player is to make a lot of mistakes. I mean, a ton of mistakes, right? And that's how we learn in life. We make mistakes, you do better next time. But obviously in a season, right, there's your time. And so how long is it going to take an individual? So from a coaching perspective, we got all hands on deck. We have coaches doing videos. I don't know, they probably do like 20 videos with with different players throughout the week, right, on top of the team players. So how do we supercharge the development process? And sometimes I think it's not realistic, right, because people have to feel it in game times, because it's one thing to do it in training and it's another to do it in games where there's chips on the line. So to answer your question, I think that's always going to be a balance, and it's always going to swing one way or the other. I think when you're winning, then you can really hyper-focus on the development piece. But when you're not winning, it's very hard to focus on development piece and get the best guys on the field that can achieve it, whether they're young or they're inexperienced. But it's definitely it's a great question and one that we wrestle with every day.
Can an individual who may not be playing anywhere near his capability, and that will come through experience and time and all that stuff, can he have a measure of feeling a sense of accomplishment if the team wins? And then conversely, can an individual have a level of feeling success and accomplishment if the team doesn't win? You see what I'm saying there?
Yeah. I think it's both, PK, and that's a great point, because I think, listen, every player knows when he plays well. It's not something that he needs validation from a coach from. Every player understands, what his role is, and really it's a feeling of in game time, like, am I secure with the ball? Am I making good decisions defensively? Am I intercepting balls? So you can gauge as an individual whether you're playing well or not. I think when the individual plays well, a younger player plays well, and the team wins, that's like everything aligning. And I think that validates the player to continue to drive to become better than he currently is. But I think it's difficult. Obviously you're not going to be outward in your happiness of your own progress, but I think deep down inside you're aware that you're playing well even if the team doesn't win. But we're at the point now where it's, we got a group of guys that are really, really committed. And, again, I can only go by the training sessions we have as far as the mindset and the attitude. And the last 2 days have been top.
There's so many factors that go into winning and losing, and you control a lot of them, but you don't control all of them. And one of them is the refereeing / officiating, depending on the sport. And there is a built-in thing here, Pablo, long before you started coaching here, long before you played here in the first RSL home game ever. We'll get to that in a minute. It was already built into the fan base here. Like, Jazz fans are sure the Lakers get calls. I could show you a playoff game the Jazz won when they got a call, but that the facts don't matter in this. It's emotional. Utah wasn't going to catch any breaks refereeing against USC, and RSL isn't going to catch any breaks against LAFC or the Galaxy. And I thought watching that Nashville game, there were 3 calls or no calls that could have gone your way, any one of which might have changed the game. But when you're out there, the calls involved a 21-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 23-year-old. And do I really think, and I've watched strike zones in baseball, and I've watched free throws in basketball, and I think it's the same thing in soccer. Do I really think the 23-year-old is going to get the benefit of the doubt against Hani Mukhtar? No, I do not. Do I think the kids are going to get the benefit of the call on the road in any of these sports? Absolutely, I do not. But that's more losing and beats guys down when you're trying to get them to control what they can control. So how do you address that when somebody gets an elbow at midfield and the crowd's groaning like it's going to be a red card, but after VAR it's only a yellow? How do you address that with the guys? Because I don't know that they shake that off all that well.
Yeah, no, you're right. And for me, I do the old look over here because, again, I think, if I start moaning and complaining about referee calls, then I'm taking my eyes off the direction that we want to move in and putting the focus in other areas. But you're spot on. I think that game in those 3 different situations, given, if they were different players, with a bit more experience or, these type of things, I think could have definitely influenced the game. I mean, the offsides call, the fact that we don't use lines to dictate on VAR whether or not he was truly offsides is interesting to me because, again, the linesman didn't have his flag up. And then, obviously, the call at midfield and then the penalty call. So these are the margins, and that's why I keep talking to the group about moments. So we went through this video, and the premise of the video was to explain, like, okay, in this moment, Nelson, did you think that there was going to be a penalty awarded in 3 seconds? And obviously no. And so, like, how can we start scanning the field and putting ourselves in the most ideal position to not allow that to even happen again? And so what I'm asking for is 5,400 moments of engagement, which is incredibly, it's probably unrealistic, but that's what the game depends on is the moments. And so again, going back to what you said, yeah, more than likely we're not going to get those calls, but really for my chair, it's really focusing on what we can control, so that when calls aren't made against us, we're in positions to win games because we've played those moments really, really well.
You talk a lot about from the offensive perspective. I'm wondering, what is your evaluation defensively? You know, you got a 34-year-old back there as a goalkeeper. You got a guy like Justin Glad's been around for a bit. So I was just wondering what you thought of that aspect of the team.
Yeah, you know, I think we started off a little wobbly, and I think we conceded 7 goals in 2 games in the first part of the season here, and but really the last few games I thought we've been really good. You know, I go back to the LA game, Galaxy game here at home, didn't give up a shot inside the box, so that was really good. This Nashville game, we didn't give up a goal in the run of play, but we give up a corner and we give up a penalty kick, right? And so I see progress in the way we're defending. And again, another interesting tidbit where we gave up probably 7 chances in the run of play off of throw-ins, right? So yesterday there was a 30-minute part of our session that was just focused in on both our attacking throw-ins and our defending throw-ins. So again, like the soccer is all one thing, right? We like to break it up in different phases because it's easier to teach and it's easier to talk about. But your attacking throw-in can be just as detrimental as a turnover in midfield, and how we go about thinking about this mundane moment, which is a throw-in that could potentially cost us a game, or this throw-in can actually help us win a game, right? And so just making the mundane moments, you know, an area of focus, I think will help us, whether it's set pieces from deeper areas, second phase set pieces. So, but overall, I think our defending has been improving as we've been going.
On that first goal on the corner, was that a case of like there was some zonal rules there and a guy was supposed to be passed off? We never know what the players are coached and taught to do in a moment. It looked to me like one guy had him and then another guy could have picked him up, but one guy let him go and nobody picked him up, so now all of a sudden it's a free header. So Cabral gives up 2 goals, but on a free header and a penalty, of course he did. I mean, of course he did, right? So it's like, what happened with those 2 guys? Because it just seemed like a you take it, I got him. And maybe there's a third guy who's involved, and I don't realize it because I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I'll give you the setup so you can look for it in games. So when teams stack vertically, in other words, they stack 1 over 1 vertically, then our 2 players that are meant to be marking, and we mark man-to-man with 6 players. And so when one peels right and one peels left, it doesn't matter who you were assigned to. You take the next player, right? So if Emeka and Jay Glad are marking 2 guys that are stacked vertically, if one goes one side and one goes the other, they switch guys. And I think Jay Glad got caught up in that exchange, right? The other part of that is we have a central player at the middle of the small box, the 6-yard box, who's zonal, who needs to be more aggressive. And in that case, it was Ari. Who needs to be more aggressive moving forward. So it's like that position is a guy that just seeks the ball and attacks the ball. So between the exchange and the zonal player, we should be able to do better on that play. And so I think just moving forward, as you start to watch our setups, you know, defensively, that's what we ask our guys to do. Oftentimes, if you try to get in between a vertical stack, you get beat both ways because there's too much movement. So this has been the way we've done it in the past. It's worked extremely well in the past. So we'll continue to fine-tune that. But it's really those 2 guys and our zonal at the top of the 6.
Reports of a potential shift in ownership. I'm wondering from the coaching perspective, it seems like you got a million things to do. Is that something that is even on your radar, particularly during the season?
No, PK. It really isn't. I'm really excited. We got to meet the Miller family yesterday. They sound wonderful people, and what they were able to do with the Jazz, prior to their selling, was remarkable. They have big aspirations for the club, and obviously we've just met them, and really excited to get to know them and to hear about their story and how that story is going to influence RSL moving forward, but they were fantastic people. But as you rightly pointed out, I mean, we got a game in a couple days. Life is happening down here that we've got to get our hands on every day and make sure that we're moving this thing forward. So I'm super excited about the future of the club, but knowing there's a lot of work to do in the short term.
I have seen you and Brian Dunseth interact, and I know that you can crack each other up and you seem to enjoy each other's company. Life doesn't really allow you to hang out a lot, but when I see you together, there's clearly a relationship there. 20 years ago yesterday, RSL played its first home game against the Colorado Rapids, and you were with Colorado then.
Oh, I booed the crap out of him. I remember that.
And Dunny scores the first goal and plants the flag in the corner. He's been teased about that a million times. He raised his arm. He's playing to the crowd. The self-promoting is just off the charts, right? And he insists he didn't know anything about it. Do you even notice stuff like that when you're playing? Is that the kind of stuff that creates rivalries, that gets your blood boiling? How does all that play out? I mean, it was 20 years ago. I saw you interviewed on this in practice earlier this week, and your response was hilarious when you started. It looked like you were appalled that it had been 20 years. It looked like you blacked out on part of the game. You did remember the crowd of 20,000, and there was a little juice there. But how do those moments go down when you're a player?
Yeah, I think, again, when I scored my first goal, I did a backspin, like a breakdancing backspin, and that wasn't rehearsed. That was, and I wasn't a break dancer, so it was obviously a terrible backspin. It was more like a back break, because I remember hobbling after I got up. But I think those moments are amazing, and I think if there's someone that might have thought about a celebration after their first goal, it might have been Dunny. But I think planting the flag is a pretty cool celebration. In that first game, score the first goal. This is a flag that no one will ever remove. And so I just remember, like I said, I remember the crowd. I remember the environment was quite hostile. And I knew at that point that this rivalry was going to last a long time.
20 years goes by in a blink of an eye, doesn't it, Pablo?
20 years. Where'd they go?
I'm wearing it with all these gray hairs, DJ.
All right. Well, one more VAR is probably 3 or 4 more gray hairs.
Here's to another 20.
All right. Thanks, Pablo. We appreciate it.
All right, guys.
There's Pablo Mastroeni, RSL head coach. They're home against Toronto. That'd be winless Toronto, PK. Winless in their last 13 dating back to last season. And it's weird because they played Miami and Messi scored, but Toronto scored a fantastic goal and ended up 1-1, splitting the points. They've got 4 points in 8 games. Still looking for their first win, though. Coming up next, what is trending? The headlines. Stay with us.